The stream is up. We're up. It is
Excellent.
show 58.
5,
Yep,
8.
we got a lot to talk about here. Honolulu, we do have a problem. There's a myriad of things going on there. Many.
Yep.
As you just giggle. I love that. Man, I'm an open book compared to you.
I mean,
that's the way it is. I love how you play your cards. You play them much better than I do.
thank you.
No problem. Compliment given.
Compliments
There you
taken.
go. It's late. We know it's late, but we're not doing a rocket launch. We're doing the Not Your Average Show.
In the evenings.
And as always, it's good to hear the musical sounds of one Harris Heller.
Harris. The one, the only.
This could be a controversial episode for us.
Why?
Might be. Oh, that's right. You can't hear the music. That's right. Your remote.
Yeah, why?
Oh, I'm just saying. You know,
Why?
could be controversial. Any episode could be controversial because we're here.
Well,
all right, I'm going to say it. 10 seconds because I want to get this show on the road.
yeah. You got that?
5, 4, 3, 2, and hey, everybody. Welcome. Mike and Corey back again. Not Your Average Show. It is July 6th. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend, 2021. Got a lot of stuff to talk to you about. Hey, Corey, how are you, bro?
What's going on, everybody? You might notice a little bit different decor. I'm not in the same place as normal. I'm out west, so as we mentioned before, might be a bit different stream. But here you go. So
go west, young man.
Happy to be chatting about some.
There you go. Stuff. And this episode, Honolulu, we have a problem. Bugatti, Rimac, and Porsche. Some interesting changes on the EV horizon of superpowers in the EV world, and Aviation makes big changes. And I'm not surprised, but I gotta say it's just really weird how we pointed out some things with their Alice aircraft just maybe 4 episodes ago, and it seems like things have changed. So that's something to talk about.
It was kind of
say again.
It was kind of amusing,
There was a chuckle or two had amongst ourselves here at the Not Your Average Show studios. No, we only have one studio and it's not very big, but we still chuckled when we were like, "Oh, there. Wow, they changed that, huh?"
Wait, it's over there, right?
Yeah, wait. I guess it's like way. Wait, Corey's far.
No, I did it wrong.
But it's over there. Okay, it's over there. Yes, at the home studio here, and we are expecting some sort of impact, I guess, here from Hurricane Elsa. I guess this is what it is. Elsa, rain, Cat 1, basic stuff going on. Nothing too major, but to all the people that are out there still flinging tin and flying aircraft, I hope it doesn't impact your schedules and your routines too much, especially if you're coming to the Florida area. Shout out to you guys. So we got so much to talk about. How was your 4th, by the way? I mean, what'd you do?
It was good, man. Yeah, where I'm at, they had a good show. It was a little delayed, but that's not unheard of. They usually have it delayed anyway, but it was delayed and it was good. It was good, man. It was
very nice.
It was good. It was good times. Yeah, yourself?
We missed you. Stuff? We missed you this year. So it was very similar to last year. Here we had excellent fireworks display. We had a big old barbecue. We had friends over. It was a ton of fun. We enjoyed it immensely, and everybody went home a happy customer. So that's the best part.
Well, always good. Always
yes.
Good.
So with that, let's get into what's obviously going to be probably the one of the more difficult conversations you have to have. And because we cover aviation, obviously this is something that came up recently. And I do mean recently because recently, as of, I guess it was Friday, and this one just came out of the blue, cargo plane made an emergency landing in the ocean near Honolulu. And this article comes to you from a couple of different sources. We have one from Business Insider. We also have the link in there for something else off of Yahoo News. And then there was also the one from the YouTube, Transair ditches off Honolulu, and I guess that's from the gentleman over there at their website. That would be which one is this? VAS Aviation, where we gotta.
Oh yeah, they do a good
They do a
job.
great job.
They do a good
We
job.
can't play
Yeah.
some of their content
Yep.
because it's
Yep.
copyrighted, because it's what they created for themselves. We can just hit you guys up the link
Yep.
just because it does tie in some of the events that take place here and what is related to the article.
Yep.
And basically, we'll give you the rundown. Okay, the rundown is airplane taking off, old 737-200 model. Now, when we mean old, we mean pretty freaking old, almost 46-year-old aircraft, taken off directly out of Honolulu. And immediately upon takeoff, it said that it lost one of the engines. They declared it with ATC. There was a lot of confusion. Okay, and I do mean a lot of confusion because at this time, ATC was also handling another Transair flight at the exact same time with a similar call sign. The air crew departed. They immediately made their report and basically saying, we will have to return back to the airport at some point, but we do need to run some checklists. At this point, they basically went off and said, look, we're not really ready to return back to the airport. There was further discussion. Again, some chaos between another call sign and some misdirection there for a minute. But then basically this air crew came back and said, look, we need to run some checklists. We can't maintain anything else than a 2,000 feet altitude. The entire duration of what took place was about 15 minutes. They did lose visual sight of the airport, but they did follow the golden rules of aviate, navigate, communicate. However, unfortunately, as in some of these cases with older aircraft and what goes on in the aviation industry, and just as we alluded to the other day, accidents will happen. This one has a happy but not great ending in the fact that the aircrew did have to ditch the aircraft. They did it 2 miles short of Honolulu International Airport. They did it in a manner in which both of the crew members survived, but they did sustain injuries. Also, hats off to the captain because he actually refused the first egress and the first emergency crew and said, basically, take my FO first because this is what's going on. But there's a couple of things that we want to highlight in this situation because a couple of months ago, Corey and I also covered the United that lost its engine in February coming out of Denver. Crew resource management has been something that's been on the tip of the FAA since 121 rules really have had to go through I'd say the impact of all the incidents that have happened that have written regulations in blood, right? That's unfortunate. This is what happens. But in this particular case, we do see some of the chronic man-made systemic problems inside of aviation, which is, yes, the aircrew has to follow what they need to do. They make immediate communication, but unfortunately in this particular case, the radio becomes the first initial issue of what this aircrew is combating. And Corey and I had a conversation about this beforehand, and you suggested that there's a couple of issues there that you had with what you saw so far. So why don't you go ahead and throw your 2 cents in the hat there?
Yeah, well, one of them that I just highlight just on what you said about some issues that come in when humans are involved. There's a few things like you can hear in the video that ATC gives the departing aircraft that has the problem, gives that departing aircraft some instructions of where to go, what altitudes to climb, which is expected of such an aircraft that just departed an airport. And I was going to highlight that a little bit of expectation bias on ATC side. Because it sounds, if I have it right, they sound like they just got the handover from tower for the aircraft to depart from that runway. They're expecting the aircraft to move over and then report, and then they're telling them where to go. It's a little bit of just what happens, what the normal procedures. Sure. And instead, when that aircraft reports in, he immediately says to the effect, we have an issue. We're going to be heading 220. We need to do some troubleshooting, and we have an emergency, and we have engine out. Or we have one of the engines. And they didn't acknowledge that. And actually later, you'll hear a few more calls, as Mike said. There's a few times, it goes on for a while, but a few calls where actually even the point where I think it's Center again, where Center calls back and actually asks if they have, do you hear me? Radio check.
Yes, they did.
and the aircraft said the same thing. Aircraft, I think it was 809, radio check. And then ATC comes back and says, yeah, loud and clear, and then gave them more instructions. And then they said again, no, we have an issue.
True.
And then finally the ball drops, as it would say, and people are starting to realize what's going on. And you could see on some of the playback, if you look at the video that we linked, or some of it on your own from, let's say Flight Radar 24, you can see that they actually even designate, okay, the aircraft has emergency. You can see it, and then everybody's kind of okay. All right, now we can do something.
We took a look at some of the other stuff that came off the website that we said earlier, and basically what ends up happening here is like Corey said, that this air crew is almost immediate in saying that they have a problem. But there's something else that comes up a little bit further on that I'm going to touch on here, which is they immediately, after about 8 minutes of going through their entire checklist and doing what they're supposed to be doing, they come back with this very, very odd call. And the odd call is number 2 is running very hot and we expect to lose it. Now, inside the communications that they were having with ATC or ATC or departure, whichever one, they're really they really can't deviate too much because they're on a standard instrument departure. There's aircraft behind them, so they can't make an immediate turn back. They got to run checklists. But the other part of it is they couldn't maintain more than 2,000 feet. And when you're in a situation like that, an aircraft of that nature, any change in the horizontal component of lift, meaning if you do a bank angle of a severe amount, is going to limit both your ability to climb, number one, and number two, it's probably going to decrease your airspeed if you have less than desirable power settings inside the aircraft. So it's a tough situation for the air crew, right? Really tough. And they're really sticking to it. And if you listen to the guys on the radio, they're calm, they're cool, they're collected, they're making their choices here. But this is where I find a little bit more of a fault with ATC, because generally in that particular case, ATC would be remiss not to give you 100% of their intention. Okay. That would be
like, what do you need? Do you want to go back now?
Yeah,
what do you want to do?
And she does, but this other aircraft interfering kind of gets everything bunched up a little bit. And I bet you we're gonna find something in the FAA report about that. There's gonna be some sort of interaction that they find there. And the other part about aviate, navigate, communicate, right? Well, obviously communication is the last part of that, but the most important thing is that you can't deviate unless you communicate and agree that you're having an emergency. And everyone thinks that once you declare an emergency, you get carte blanche, you get to do what you want, which is technically true, because if the aircraft is unflyable, that is something that you have at your disposal. But this is going to fall into a gray area. And I think you're going to see some things that might have to change as a result of it in what the FAA sees. And I don't know what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll take note, because again, I said some things before I watched. Had listen to the tapes, because again, as you guys have down there, some links down there, you can actually watch some videos or listen to the actual audio. And as Mike said, the pilots seemed quite calm, and they actually even say where they're going to be going. They didn't actually ask to go back right away. They actually said we'll go 220. And then, when they were going 220, even before they got acknowledgement from ATC, which is why ATC was a little bit, you could hear ATC is a little bit upset, like, why are you guys not doing what I told you? And then realized, okay, yeah, they're actually saying we have a problem. But anyway, so I'm also, as Mike said, I'm interested to see more about the report. And I know one thing you guys may remember when we did this video last time, not about emergencies, is we like to say, when things happen, when things go awry in aviation, we try not to encourage anyone to backseat quarterback,
which
right?
we kind of are.
All we know is what we have here. We got the tapes, and we have some data of where the aircraft was and altitude and speed. We don't know anything else right now. We don't have the tapes from what happened in the cockpit, what the indications were. All we know is what we presented to you guys so far. So it's always interesting to see what really goes on when the report finally comes out. We're obviously super happy that no one got fatally injured, and that they were rescued and all that. So that's always super important. But yeah, we're interested to see what the actual report says, to see if we can maybe pinpoint some more, shed some more light on the aircraft itself, what happened on the flight deck. Because again, we are only speculating ATC now, which we have some issues with the ATC, right? But I'm still interested to see what else is going on there.
To highlight some of the conversations that Corey and I also had prior.
But of course, aviate,
navigate, communicate, of course. But to highlight some of the conversations that we had before we jumped on this, which is, look, the Miracle and the Hudson and this have one thing in common. Most airlines do not practice double engine failure. It's one of those things that it's unprecedented. It generally doesn't happen. When it's so rare that it's taken, I think, 13 years since the previous event for it to happen again, or maybe even longer than that at this level. So there's a lot of that in this Honolulu incident that's going to be digested inside of air crews and how people train inside of simulators. But the other thing is that now, being dual rated, we could speak to two different areas, and I'm going to steal this from what Corey had said earlier, which is in a helicopter, the minute you have any indications that something is going wrong, it's almost an immediate, let's look for some place to land, which...
Well, you do aviate, right? you have to keep flying if it's a single engine aircraft, which we talked about earlier. If it's single engine, you have to, if you guys don't know, you have to lower the collective, maybe make some changes to the aircraft attitude, actually enter auto rotation so you have an aircraft to fly still or glide. And then many times if the engine's completely out, yeah, then you're navigating immediately. And again, being dual rated, and Mike can chime in as well, it's a bit different, right? Because we talk about airlines with two engines or multiple engines. The fact that we said already that when you have double engine failure, double engine out at the same time, it's extremely rare, which is a good thing. Don't take note of that if you're thinking about, if you're not a pilot and you're kind of wondering what we're talking about. It's quite rare that both engines are out and the aircraft's now unable to maintain altitude. But yeah, it's something to say that if you got one engine out and you can troubleshoot it, you may have already seen articles, and I think maybe Mike, I don't know, maybe we've already covered somewhere an aircraft lost an engine and then made it back to the airport. I know there's plenty of those.
Tons.
But I don't know if we've covered.
Yeah, it was the Denver one, the United crew making it back. Well, here's the other part. I mean, it's also not unheard of that air crews have shut down a good engine before.
Well, we mentioned that as well, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. He said it's running hot. Then,
well, so here's the other.
Did he ever say in the video that we've lost both engines?
He did. I believe they did. The last call is the other one's running hot, but we can't maintain it. I believe he said finally, we're going to lose the other one, or alluded to. But then they got the call that they couldn't maintain altitude, and then ATC read back and said, I think it was an alert, altitude alert. You're descending below 2,000. Yeah. So the other part of that is, look. Then you're going to have to look at probably what's the other issue that would cause both engines to fail on the same aircraft, and whether it would be a fuel issue, a fuel delivery system, onboard fire. There's many things that could have gone wrong to have led to that incident. So, again, can't speculate to that, because here's the good news.
Yeah.
Good news is aviate, navigate, communicate, for the most part here, these guys actually at night performed a phenomenal, a phenomenal water landing, because if it was a water crash, they probably wouldn't be alive. So they were still able to.
This is at night too, off Honolulu. So they're landing a 737 with two people on board with cargo in the ocean.
Yes, at night.
And they both got out, injured, but they both got out. So yeah.
So hats off to that air crew. But again, these are the things that the FAA are going to go back and look at, and I guarantee you in this particular case, we're going to find some sort of alteration at the level of, there's going to be something that they're say, well, do we really have to communicate that it has to be a full-blown emergency? What can we do besides just vectors at this point? Because these incidents are rare. The turnout was okay, but I'm sure we could still do better. And look, this also goes on to say that in what we're covering for the air taxi markets and everything else that happens, things will still happen. Engines will still fail. We'll talk about Alice and Aviations and what we had their critique about where they had their engines placed, because when this happens, you got to still maintain the aircraft. And if the aircraft's unable to actually physically fly, the flight crews have their hands very, very full in what they need to do to maintain the aircraft's airworthiness. So there's that.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, folks, if you get a chance, you like what we have to say, like, subscribe, follow. We got a lot more to talk about. We appreciate, I think just the other day we were talking about 250 subscribers, and now we're at 263. It keeps growing in leaps and bounds. We couldn't be happier with the results that you, the YouTube audience, have bestowed upon us, and that you keep finding what we do and you like it and you keep responding. So thank you so much for that. And we continue to bring you the best that we can. So, hey, there's that.
Yep.
I'm going to let Corey introduce this next one because, well, it is what it is. This is
yes, yeah, it's interesting and exciting.
I think really exciting, honestly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. So here we go. So the next one here, I'm gonna bring you back down to earth for a bit with some car news, and this comes to us mainly from there's a few links down there, but the first one is about Auto Week, and basically just the title says, "Did Porsche just take over Rimac?" And if you're not familiar with, you probably have heard of Porsche, but you may not have heard of Rimac. You may not possibly heard of Bugatti either if you're not really into cars. But here we go. So basically, the long and short of it is, Rimac is a company that makes not too many cars, but they're quite good at making very one-off cars that are really pushing the boundaries of technology, and one of them is I'm trying to say it right, the
Nivera, I think it is. Yes.
And basically, I mean, this car is it's nearly 2,000 horsepower. It's got 1,900 horsepower, so it's about 0 to 60 under 2 seconds. Again, and while I say these things, the car is obviously very expensive. It starts at 2.4 million, so it's not cheap. In any way, but again, the point we're trying to make here is that the technology they're making is pushing the boundaries of EV technology, actually. And that brings us right back to the first article about Porsche. So Porsche is basically has some people on the board of Rimac, and Rimac basically, if you look at the article on Marca, I don't know if you have it up because I can't keep all the windows up right now, but if you have that one that shows the shareholder structure, you guys can see that Rimac itself has Rimac Bugatti and Rimac technology, and this is the new structure of how the company's going to go. So there's multiple players already in here. Porsche actually already had some stake in here with this thing here, but now after this change, now this announcement of a Bugatti Rimac collaboration, that Porsche now is up to 45% of the stake.
Interesting to see that Hyundai's in there too.
Basically, where we're going with this. Yeah, oh yeah, Hyundai's in here. If you're looking at that one schematic there, the mate Rimac, that's actually the original owner of Rimac. That's who that's a person, not another entity. And then some other investors there. So, but yeah, so basically 55% of the company now is still owned by Rimac, but Porsche comes in at 45%. So it's a lot bigger stake than it had before, which was 25. And let's not forget that Volkswagen actually is behind the scenes here too, right?
Oh, sure.
Right, Zach? What? Yeah, oh yeah. So Porsche, I guess if you're not sure or didn't already know, Volkswagen owns Porsche. And we have been talking about EV tech with Volkswagen already for a while. And we also know that some of these other, let's call them legacy players, the Bugattis and the Porsches that are quite good at making cars, make really good petrol cars. And we know the industry is really making a huge push towards EV. And here we have Rimac, who doesn't make a whole lot of cars, but has really good technology. And now you see some of these bigger players, Porsche, to some extent, of course, Bugatti, Hyundai's in there, as we already mentioned. And now we can expect to see cars in the upcoming future that are made by, they're going to be badged Bugatti Rimac, and they're going to have some really cool technology. And yeah,
well,
Mike, what do you think about all that?
First off, I guess the best part about this is Richard Hammond hasn't crashed it yet. So that's always a good thing because he
that is
a positive because if you guys are big fans of Top Gear and then what's the Grand Tour, obviously Richard Hammond, aka the Hamster, crashed the Rimac 1. I think it was 2 seasons ago, broke his leg, and that's one of the things. But hey, here's the other thing: if you're Bugatti and your name is out there and you have the Chiron and you've been known for basically putting out some of the fastest naturally aspirated internal combustion engine vehicles out on the planet, that's your stakeholder position. You're also involved at some point with the VW Group, and the Porsche Taycan Turbo has basically been the challenger to Tesla at this point. We've covered the Audi e-tron, right, where it's basically taking that same platform, pushing it forward, but you got a problem, and the problem is the Roadster, right? Tesla Roadster's coming out. This thing is promising sub 1 second or 1 second 0 to 60 times. It's looking like it's going to be a technology buster, and what are you going to do to protect yourself against that? Because you're basically going to obsolete the Chiron as being what it could be. And all it's going to take is for Tesla to modify a couple other things, and they basically could put themselves in another supercar market, but they're going to do it in a different way, right? They've already got the luxury supercar four-door area kind of covered. They just made a big statement with Plaid. And look, if you're in this entity and you have the money, and Rimac is a excellent technology group to acquire because they've already done so much of the legwork to make sure that you're going to be at the top of the EV world. It's a no-brainer. But the pressure's on, right? The pressure's really on because now they've got to actually produce something that's going to be worthy of a competitor to Tesla. Now, Rimac 1 was obviously it's the world's best EV supercar at this point. And the 2 and everything else that's in the Rimac line looks like it's going to be really, really top notch. Excellent move towards one of the largest auto groups in the world. I really have to say that. But now they got to produce. right? It's like the age-old thing.
And while you say all that, and that's totally true, the R&D that Rimac's got is a huge like positive for the whole group of VW, Porsche, and Bugatti, obviously. But I still would say, what's the price gonna be if they're gonna be going after the Tesla
I don't know.
Roadster? Because we can only speculate too at this point, but the Tesla Roadster supposedly is only a quarter million. So are we going to see a Bugatti Rimac with top of the line Rimac technology in it for 300,000?
Well, that sounds reasonable.
I mean,
that sounds really reasonable, and to me, so you're right. I mean, it really makes me think about, is it their technology that you're really buying, and you're just going to stuff it under a Porsche? Because look, let's face it, Porsche would also love to dominate in this middle ground, electric market. VW has already been, and we've covered them multiple times with their recharge days and all these other things that they're doing.
Batteries.
They have literally been stepping up their game to go one for one, toe to toe with Tesla, right? You gotta tackle Tesla if you want to be in this marketplace. And anyone that doesn't fear Tesla right now of being able to put out a 911 competitor or being able to enter other markets, you gotta be crazy if you don't. And you've really got to, circle the wagons on this one and bring together the technology. Rimac has the technology, and they did it, with different groups involved. And now the fact that Hyundai is also, or Hyundai is in there, and they've also been.
Yep. Yeah.
Go ahead. They've been using this technology and parts of it, and at some level, their electric cars have been garnering some pretty good views from people. So let's see.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, at this point, this is all we know. This is this is pretty recent news. I mean, it's the 5th, so I mean, it's now. If you don't know, if you haven't already known about the Rimac cars, go check them out. Just go check out Rimac after the stream's over. There's some cool stuff there, guys. And if Porsche and Bugatti can leverage this to make a not affordable, but a price appropriate supercar for Tesla's Roadster, it's going to be cool. It's going to be super cool to see. So,
it's going to be real interesting. And hey, there's another. Well, there's a Lotus that I want to talk about in the next couple episodes too. That's coming out. That's really nice. But hey, top speed. So the Rimac C2, right? They're saying, and just to give you some other things, this is off a different article, and this one's also off of Auto Week, and they're talking about the version that is now coming out that Richard Hammond hasn't destroyed, which is the Rimac C2. And some of the specs that
the Minerva.
And some of the specs in here that they talk about, right? They're talking about right now, they're saying that it can hit 186 miles an hour in 9.3 seconds, which is 2.5 seconds faster than originally planned. The Navara has a top speed of 258 miles an hour, and it can run a quarter mile in 8.6 seconds. All right. So that is absolutely and totally astounding. That is basically giving you a Formula One car. Now, not to say that, look, here's the strangest part. What is it? A little over 1 second later, guess what's going to cross behind that thing in the quarter mile? The Plaid. Yeah, Plaid. Okay, it just goes to
the Plaid. Not even the Roadster. The Plaid.
Okay, and look, we're not saying this to blow up Tesla. We're not. We're saying it in a sense of
no.
This is what you've got to hit, and this is what you've got to deal with today, right, in the marketplace. So, I don't know what more you can say. Tom?
Oh shit, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. You broke up for a minute.
Hey,
what's up?
Yep. Same internet. Hey, yeah. I'm back.
All right, he's back. All right, so hey, there's more to talk about this one, but there's one last thing that we got to get to tonight, and we don't want to keep Corey up too late or myself. So we'll just we'll wrap this one up, and that's it. Sure. Hey, let us know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, leave a comment below. We appreciate all the comments. It's been fantastic. And there's more to talk about in the not too distant future about Rimac and this whole merger, because look, in the EV world, if you pay any attention to it, massive shakeup, massive. So, all right, I'm gonna take us home with this last one here. I'm gonna introduce it, and then we're just gonna kind of, here's the gist of it. Aviation's the Tesla of aircraft has now produced a new production version of the Alice that we just looked at. Well, 2 episodes ago. And I hate to say it, but some of the things we said have already changed, which is they have now moved the propulsion units from the tips of the wings to the aft,
Mhm.
They have chopped their range by almost 200 miles, which we said was going to be a difficulty, and they've
They did,
basically
yeah.
widened the cabin and said, "Well, this is what we're going for." And in essence, look, it's a clean slate design in the exception
It
that
is. Yeah.
it kind of keeps this oddball cabin shape, but basically they
Mhm.
do come back and they mention the fact that they're going to have this whole new specification sheet, which I'll bring up here so we can kind of talk about it together, because they're
Yep.
saying the
Yep.
cruise speed is now 220, the max ceiling 32,000 feet, max range is
Yep.
440 nautical miles, which is impacted because I'm going to say that, look, icing, other types of landing conditions, 121 operations require 2 alternates if you're going to a place with poor weather. So that's a whole
Mhm.
situation that you have to look at. Climb rate
Yep.
2,000 feet per minute. Takeoff field length looks to be about the same, 2,500 feet. So,
Yep.
and the max cruise at 32,000. Well, limits them somewhere. Doesn't really, limit them totally, but they've got, they change things. It kind
Mhm.
of makes me wonder if they saw our video. I don't know. What's your feelings on
Yep.
this one?
Yeah, yeah. So if you guys didn't catch the last video, we literally just a few episodes ago we talked about this design, and it was the previous design of this exact aircraft, the Alice. And before they had the nacelles that they're still the same engines, electric engines are still the Magnix X. But if you didn't see it, they had them out there on the almost on the wing tips themselves,
Hmm.
and then they actually had another one, a third one. Remember, Mike, on the tail
Yes,
back
they
there.
did. Yeah.
And so now we're down to two. They had three, but now they're down to two. And we had mentioned a few things just off the cuff as we were discussing this before about things like controllability. If you have two of the engines out on the tips of the wings and
Hmm.
you lost one,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a lot of thrust on a really long arm.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is the distance between the fuselage itself, where the thrust of that nacelle out on the edge is going to be pulling around on that side is really far out, and that's going to cause some controllability issues. And we we talked about a few things such as that, and it was just a bit funny that I was talking to Mike. I think honestly, maybe the next day, maybe the day after that, it was like
It was
Mike,
like, lol, what?
they changed
Yeah.
it. They changed it. So
Which I think my prompt response was they had to. Like I knew it. Or did they see what we were
yeah, yeah,
doing?
yeah. We talked about
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And it's funny
Uh,
because it's weird in the timestamp of this, because this was July 1st, and I think we did our episode on like the 20 on literally maybe the
29.
29th or the 30th, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was. I feel like it might have been the actual next day,
It
honestly.
could have been. Hold on, let's see. What day? We have to go back and take
Uh,
a No, wait. We did this episode on Wednesday or Thursday. Hold on. I got to go back into
oh,
our own archives now and just take a look
let's look.
to see when we actually did it, because that's going to make a big difference in what we did. And I just want to do that for the fact that, hey, it's just interesting to me that that's what happened. And let's see, which day did we actually do it? Dum dum dum. Let's see. Actually, it was the first. Ha! So we did ours in the afternoon, and this article came out literally. Okay, yeah, Pacific time. This article just came out, so it literally was like almost the same day that we actually did ours on.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
So
see.
hey,
Yeah, the date or the time.
go figure.
I mean,
Whatever
whatever.
the case may be, is that
There
they
you go.
changed it, and maybe we
Yeah,
were just one day there. Hey, so but it's true, right? It's true. They're going to have to make some changes long term in order to make this thing more successful for the commuter market,
yeah,
if that's what they really want to do. Nothing else to say.
yeah, yeah. I mean, few last thing for me. I mean, they say the typical cruise altitude is 10,000. Remember, this is like 9
Hmm.
passengers. So when an important part that Mike mentioned was the range that's been reduced, and the fact that it is going to be fall somewhere under 121, maybe 135. I don't really know, but um, it'll be interesting to see what market they really how they try to capture this. I don't know where exactly they're going to try to have their first flights, like where they're actually going to be
Hmm.
based out of when they first start this off. They do say they're not expected to go into service until 2024, so we got some time to see how this plays out. And it says also that the certification's obviously not done. It's going to take a little while. That always does. But they say their inaugural flight is later this year.
Later this
So
year.
definitely something to keep track of. If you do go through the article, we have a link down there. You'll see that there's some video of their facilities, and you can see they have they have it being built.
Hmm.
So it would seem to be that yes, they could certainly have an inaugural flight this year. I think that's perfectly doable, kind of looking at what they've done so far. So yeah, it's another cool thing to see. And with the changes they've made, yeah, I'm a bit more optimistic. Let's call it.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the move they had to make. So yeah, there's a quick little
Yeah.
video there of them putting together their assembly. But here's another thing that's actually interesting. At the end of the article, it says Tesla's CEO Elon Musk has also revealed having his own design for a VTOL electric plane. So I'm wondering where that's going to take us as well, because hey,
Yeah.
if Tesla says electric plane, people listen, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's been saying that for quite a while with electric VTOLs. I mean, his big thing that Elon always says is whatever his design looks like, I haven't seen it, what it actually is supposed to look like, but he always goes back to say that the energy density of the batteries is not what it needs to be yet. And actually, I think this article even mentions it. Yeah, it actually mentions the same thing. It mentions that the density is needs to be at least 400 watt hours per kilogram, and right now it's 250 to 300. So not quite there yet. And actually, this falls right into what Mike and I have been saying before about battery density. And this is not particularly for Tesla's VTOL, but any aircraft that is going to be looking at longer ranges. So maybe they looked at taking an engine out and moving the engines closer to the fuselage and said, yeah, we're just not going to get the range, but this is a better, more stable design. It's going to be easy to certify, blah, 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 blah. And boom, this is what we got.
So, and here's one last thing. With these designs, what I don't see in any of the designs yet is anti-ice. Okay. And I'm concerned only because right? Obviously, with batteries on board, you could have electric heating elements in the fronts of the wings, and that's okay. And, usually those are very bright silver because you don't paint them, because it makes it more efficient. So you don't have to heat paint as well as surface. I'm not sure what the surface materials that they're working with here, but that's usually what ends up happening. But there is going to be that concern with every EV vehicle that we're going to talk about going forward, which is once you're in the electric department and you really don't have an onboard actual unit, a turbine or something that automatically gives you heat that you can use to dissipate ice, all of these are going to have to take a hit the minute you hit that switch in range, because that's going to be draining your batteries, which is your only source of range, right? And still worth saying that yes, battery density, just as you alluded to with Elon Musk, and what happens with battery density and how it's going to change it. And as we know that those new solid state batteries look to change the marketplace in the not too distant future, there's one other caveat. You can't drop batteries as you use them, because they're called bombs, right?
You can't. Yeah, you can't drop weight.
You can't drop weight. Yeah, because that would technically be like literally, unless now it would be real interesting if someone figured out a way to calculate where to drop a battery out of an aircraft and have a catching system, right? So you could weight shed, and then they transport that back to a recharge station when you get to the airport.
Mike, I think the FAA is laughing somewhere. They're rolling around the floor laughing, because that's never going to happen.
Look, just saying, someone could try it. It'd be interesting.
I don't disagree.
It would.
I don't disagree.
You could be sitting there in a field one day and you just have a big X with a net in there, boom, and here comes a battery. Be like, oh, here we go, boom, card it.
Yeah, this is my job. I catch batteries and bring them back.
That's what I do. So anyhow, hey, that's all we got. I have nothing else to add on this. I am absolutely and totally blown away at the fact that they changed the design, and it literally is what we said it needed to be in order to make it in the marketplace. I'm going to try to pat ourselves on the back on this one. Long range pat in the back for you too.
It's a hats off to Aviation.
Yeah, keep up the good work, those guys. We want to see you succeed. We do want to see the aircraft in production. We know that there's a lot of challengers out there, but at least you're just going forward and you're not trying to go up. So there's that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyhow, it's late. We're tired. And with that said, I'm done, and we'll see you I don't know when we're working again next. Hopefully another time this week, but we're going to try to get you some new content.
Yeah.
And again, to everyone out there that's been watching the shows, liking and subscribing and following us, thank you. Bottom of our hearts. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you so much. Everything helps. We're very much appreciated for all the support, and yeah, we'll come back with some more stuff.
We will. All right. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you very shortly. Take care. Have a great night.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.